This is Mac OS Ken.
A strong buy rating for Apple. The annual supply chain freakout is underway. And Beats goes to college. It is Monday, the 28th of August, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. Have you ever heard of the advisory firm Wright's Research? I had not before a note I saw over the weekend on Philip Elmer DeWitt's Apple 3.0. I laughed because it doesn't seem like Elmer DeWitt had heard of Wright's Research either, though the note that brought the firm to the site's attention made at least part of it worth reposting. Maybe it was the thoughts laid down, maybe it was the aggressive move to the positive. Either way, let's boil down what was said. The firm starts by saying it made a mistake when it started coverage of Apple this past January with a hold rating. Wright's was, it seems, looking at Apple as if Apple was just another phone maker. Quoting the firm, one of the main reasons we were skeptical about Apple at current levels had to do primarily with the amount of growth we were predicting for the next few years. They thought the numbers would stay flat at best. Now they say they realize they missed a few key factors, including upgrade cycles, Apple's ability to attract new users, and the company's ability to monetize users, new and old. Quoting the Wright's Research note again, it has become very clear that instead of looking at this boom-bust cycle starting in 2020, we would have been better off looking 5 years ahead and considering earlier how much their monetizable installed base is growing and less about the recent upgrade cycle. The installed base has grown by 100 to 150 million users since 2019 and crossed the 2 billion user mark this year. Since last year, Apple has also reportedly added more than 200 million active users. They also reference Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives' seemingly perennial belief that there are about 250 million iPhone users ripe for an upgrade, having not had a new or new-to-them iPhone in the past 4 years. That, plus new iPhones close on the horizon, could lead to a very lively upgrade cycle coming up. With that, the firm gunned it, changing their nearly 8-month-old hold rating to a strong buy. They've also set a 12-month price target on Apple shares of $215. It'll be interesting to see whether Wright's Research becomes a name we know, or just a group who wrote that note that time. With the spring come the birds and bees. With the autumn come the falling leaves. With new iPhone season come the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. 9to5Mac noted the cycle late last week. First, says the site, analysts predict how many tens of millions of new models of iPhones will be produced. Some time passes, then last-minute reports of production issues arise. Finally, just before the new iPhones are announced, analysts cut their iPhone production predictions due to supply constraints. In fairness, they were right last year, but last year was weird. Production issues or not, 9to5's Zach Hall says the reality is that Apple can never have as many iPhones produced at launch as it would like. What it does make, it will sell. With that in mind, Hall hips his readers to a note from the Japanese bank Mizuho. On Friday, the piece says the firm adjusted its iPhone 15 production estimate for the year from 84 million to 73. It blames issues in the supply chain. Does this matter? Well, it did last year, though again, last year's COVID-driven production problems were pretty extreme. Sales were definitely delayed, with many likely lost. Missing the holidays would be one reason. Additionally, the bigger differences between the consumer end of the iPhone 14 line, of which there were plenty headed into the end of the year, versus the Pro end, the phone people wanted and could not get headed into the holidays. probably contributed. We weren't talking about a component shortage last year, though. We were talking about people running away from Foxconn factories. We were talking about Foxconn missing payments, making up those payments, but still sending workers away thanks to the cluster thing the whole production thing had become. What we're talking about now is the recurring rumor that Sony is having trouble making enough sensors for the camera system expected to grace the iPhone 15 Pro Max. More than one firm has cited that as a worry. Of course, notes like that usually prompt me to remind you about the statement Apple CEO Tim Cook made over a decade ago. Addressing rumors in the supply chain in very early 2013, Cook said, "Just because you think you know a fact about the supply chain doesn't mean it's true. And even if it is true, that doesn't mean it means what you think it means." I'm paraphrasing. I'm also not saying Mizuho and the other firms are wrong. Either way, 9 to 5 Max Hall is probably correct. The iPhone everyone wants this fall will be hard to get, with or without issues in the supply chain. Apple subsidiary Beats has done a deal with 15 college athletes. I honestly thought that was illegal, though a piece from Bloomberg says not anymore. According to that, student athletes have been able to profit on their name, image, and likeness since a 2021 U.S. Supreme Court decision. The ruling lets them sign endorsement deals and profit from their social media posts. Also profiting? Beats. The audio and lifestyle brand has inked deals with football players from the University of Southern California, University of Texas, Alabama, and others. Bloomberg says the deal is the largest between the brand and college athletes so far. Of the deal, Amina Charles, Beats head of sports marketing, was quoted as saying, "As we've worked with our initial college athletes, we've realized how important it is for them to have the brand support at this level. The industry is moving toward truly empowering college athletes, so we wanted to take a bigger swing in this area." And can you imagine how empowered all college athletes must feel thanks to this deal for 15 of them? As part of the Beats deal, Bloomberg says the players will be featured in marketing campaigns and wear custom products throughout their season. Financial terms were not disclosed. An ugly Apple TV Plus story out of Finland. Apple Insider cites a report from the country that says the psychological thriller Constellation left the country owing a number of small businesses a total of just over $1 million. According to the report, Constellation is said to be one of the most expensive series to be filmed in Europe and the largest TV production in Finland. It's no Hollywood, it's no Bollywood, hence relying on lots of small businesses to get what they need. Apple Insider says the unpaid bills covered expenses ranging from paying actors to catering, fuel for transportation, and the hiring of Siberian Huskies, among other elements. Between the local entrepreneurs and the Cupertino company stand a couple of organizations pointing fingers. The company actually producing the title, Turbine Studios, says the original budget was paid to Film Service Finland. Film Service Finland says, not really. According to Apple Insider, that organization says Turbine owes more. A producer for Film Service Finland says there are lots of expenses incurred by the production company that have not been paid. While Turbine was said to be looking into reports of unpaid invoices earlier this year, it's unclear from the report whether the studio is still engaged in finding a resolution. Are you following Apple CEO Tim Cook on Instagram? No, you're not. 9 to 5 Mac ran a story about Apple CEO joining the Facebook-owned photo blogging service. Then they updated the story to say, nah. Can't really blame them or anyone else for being fooled. Not only are a number of lower-level Apple employees following at tim.d.cook's Instagram account, so are Apple VPs Alan Dye and Lisa Jackson. There they were, anyway. The update to the 9 to 5 Mac piece said Sunday morning that Apple was trying to get the account taken down. When I finally got around to checking it out myself Sunday night, I got the message, "Sorry, this page isn't available. The link you followed may be broken, or the page may have been removed." And finally today, a reminder to people who listen to podcasts through Stitcher, you won't be doing that come tomorrow. macOS Ken has been on Stitcher more years than I can remember. Starting tomorrow, though, the service is done. I got an email from Stitcher Sunday reminding content creators the Stitcher app and website, including the Stitcher Premium service, will end operations on Tuesday, the 29th of August, 2023. After this date, listeners will no longer be able to access shows on the Stitcher app. Most Stitcher website pages will be redirected to Stitcher's sister app, Pandora. Now, I know I've heard from at least one listener who was listening through Stitcher. If that applies to you, there are lots of other places to find this show. For audio platforms, there's Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Downcast, Gaana, iHeartRadio, Overcast, Pandora, and Spotify. Just search for macOS Ken on any of them. If you want to find the show on the web, the most up-to-the-minute destination would be macosken.libsyn.com. The show posts every day to YouTube, youtube.com/KenRay, as well as Google Podcasts. Just search for macOS Ken at podcasts.google.com. If you're a business type person, macOS Ken posts every day to my LinkedIn page, linkedin.com/in/RayKen, audible.com, odyssey.com, and finally about the only thing I'm doing with my website right now is posting shows. So you can always find the latest episode of macOS Ken at macosken.com. I probably missed a few or forgotten a few, but that seriously ought to be plenty. Assuming you find your way out of Stitcher, I will talk to you tomorrow. One more thing before we get on with our respective days. After my talking to you last Friday about the lack of advertising this show is currently seeing, a number of you either upped your pledges on Patreon or signed up there for the first time. I can't tell you how much it means to me. I am truly grateful. Thank you. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.